Hey guys, welcome back to Audi C7 owners. This is Cameron once again with another DIY video. Today we're going to be going over how to debadge your car. This is a common thing to do for most people. They want to clean up the rear end of the vehicle, and so here's a video on how to properly do that. The first thing you need to do is start out by heating the emblems. We've got a heat gun here. I got that from Amazon, pretty cheap, I think less than $20. I'll link it in the description below. But you want to heat up the emblems and make sure that you're heating up the glue that's bonding the emblems to the vehicle. Now our trunk lids are metal, so you can get pretty hot with it. If you're trying to remove any emblems that are on plastic, then you need to be really careful not to overdo it. But a good way to tell that you've got it warm enough is if you touch the paint around the emblems and it's hot, then you're good to go. Now if you have a good test fishing line, that's best to use, but I didn't have any fishing line, so I'm using floss. And you can see that I took the floss and I doubled it up to make it a little bit stronger and worked it behind the emblems. You can see the glue residue is still left on the trunk lid of the vehicle, but it's okay, we'll take care of that in a bit. I'm replacing my main emblem with a black emblem, and so I'm going to be heating it up here. This one's a little bit more difficult to use. You can see here I tried to use the floss and it's just too thick with the glue, so it snaps the floss. I didn't have anything stronger than floss, so I ended up using a pry tool. Now you have to be very careful using a pry tool because pry tools can gouge into your paint and you don't want to do that. So I wrapped the end of mine in some painter's tape to protect the paint, and I'll start to lift it. You can see I already got the left edge lifted a little bit, and I'm going to just work it off really carefully. Careful not to push the emblem into the paint either and damage it further. In order to safely remove the residue left over from your emblems on the trunk lid, we're going to be using a 4-inch eraser wheel. I got this from eBay for around $10, and I'll link it in the description below as well. It comes with everything necessary to mount it to your standard drill, and once you get it put on, you just hold it up to the trunk lid and work yourself back and forth. Don't hold it in one spot because you don't want to burn the paint with the wheel. It is safe for the paint. It might look like it's going to leave a few abrasions in the clear coat, but don't worry, we're going to take care of those in a bit. You can see that the one small emblem there on the bottom right of the trunk lid came off fairly easily, but the main emblem, the main Audi emblem there, is a whole different animal. It had a lot more glue residue left over, and it took me quite a long time to remove what I could with the eraser wheel, and it still wasn't perfect at the end. As you work with the eraser wheel, it's going to create a lot of dust and debris from the eraser wheel itself coming apart as it removes the adhesive left over from your emblems. So occasionally you just want to wipe it away and see exactly what you have left to keep working with. But ultimately we're going to hose the vehicle down once we're done removing all the emblems and make sure that we've gotten everything we can with the eraser wheel. So like we talked about, once you're done taking off all the glue residue with your eraser wheel, you want to hose the car down really well and get all of the pieces of the eraser wheel that have flown everywhere off the vehicle. Once you hose it down, you want to dry it off really well, or just let it air dry, whatever you like to do, just to make sure that you don't have any contaminants on the paint, because the next step is going to be cutting and polishing your paint to remove any evidence of where the emblems used to be. Because the issue is, if you've had your car for a while and it's more than a year old, the sun will have cured the paint differently where it's exposed to the sunlight versus where the emblems were. So you'll still be able to see the outline of where your emblems were. The last step before we cut and polish is to clean the areas you're going to be working on with something that can remove adhesives and any other contaminants left on the paint. I'm going to use lacquer thinner today because it's safe for paint. This is not paint thinner. Don't use paint thinner. Lacquer thinner works on paint and on glass. It's great to remove adhesives. It's great to remove pine sap too. Just don't let it get on any kind of plastic. If you get it on plastic, it'll turn it white. So here's a good shot of where my Audi emblem used to be. You can still see the outline of it clearly with the sunlight reflecting off of it. So we're going to be cutting it. I'm just using a typical Meguiar's cutting compound, and I've got this kit that I ordered on eBay that comes with an adapter piece for a drill that allows you to attach little pads for cutting and polishing. That's all I'm using here. This isn't a pro level paint correction kit. This is simply something that's just going to correct your paint to a degree that lets you get rid of the outlines of your emblems that you had. So here we are polishing the same area. I'm using a Meguiar's polish. Once again, this is not a pro level paint correction. This is just enough to remove the outline of where your emblems used to be. It's not going to take out every swirl and scratch mark, but it will look really good, and it'll make it to where you don't notice the emblem outlines anymore. Another note, you may have to do the polishing step multiple times to get rid of all of the swirl marks left from cutting it. So here's what the car looks like completely debadged. We've got no outlines visible. You can see there's not a ton of swirl marks or scratch marks. But if you're like me, I don't like the look of it without an emblem. So here's what I did to reinstall the gloss black emblem that I have. I got this from an Audi Zine forum member. I failed to check the size of this compared to the rear emblem that was stock on the car, and this one is a little bit smaller. It's not terribly small, but it is a little bit smaller. I just didn't like the look of the vehicle without an emblem at all, so I went ahead and put this on here. If I end up finding one that's the correct size, I'll probably swap them out. But basically, I centered it up where the old emblem used to be. I could still see barely a little bit of the shading where the OEM emblem was. It was hard to see, but I could find enough to center it up. Then I used a level on top to level out the emblem, pressed it on, and I was done. Okay, so here's a before shot of the car before we did any work at all. And here is your finished product once you're done debadging your vehicle. And in my case, rebadging it with the gloss black emblem. The gloss black emblem is a little bit smaller, as I said, but it doesn't look too bad. I didn't really like the look of it without it, but I do love the look of everything else being debadged. It's a lot cleaner in my opinion, and it matches the front aesthetics of my RS style grille with the gloss black emblem. I hope this video was useful to someone who's never done this before. If you have any questions or just want to say something about the video, drop a comment below. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you with the next DIY video for your Audi C7.